Akhetaten's Gates, Chapter 12. The royal family, despite popular belief, did have normal family time. Many were the times when the living Horus was simply a man, was simply a husband, was simply Dad. However, this wasn't one of those times. The tension within the regality was thick. Amenhotep III was looking rather important that day. He also looked rather cranky. But, considering the previous night, I suppose I couldn't blame him. But even so, for a man his age, even I had to admit that he was looking rather good. He was so bronze, covered in oils and lotions. He looked like a really shiny novelty wrestler. The purest of white linens were clothed about his body, a decked-out kilt, and the trademark Nemes crown, and a colorful belt, and ribbons. Large, heavy earrings hung from his ears, crossed over his chest, the symbol of his authority, the crook and flail. No crown, no makeup. Nothing could truly reverberate his powers like those simple instruments. Queen T was just radiant. She was in a fine yellow gown. She held her crook, looking rather queenly. My, how important she appeared. And bored, actually. There wasn't really much for her to do, except to look good, and make her husband look better, I suppose. The crown prince was not among this menagerie. Normally, he would have been expected to be with them. He would need to learn the tricks of the trade. He'd need to observe these things in action, and to pick them up. One day, he'd be expected to perform these things for the good of Egypt. But, with familial tension being what it was at the moment, perhaps distance was the best medicine for this situation. Amenhotep IV was not eager to be close to his father at this time. I have a hunch that the feeling was perhaps mutual. Still, the prince tried to be rather inconspicuous as he snuck quietly behind T's throne. "Mother," he whispered. She peered over her shoulder at him. "I have something important to talk to you about. Will it be all right?" She glanced over at Amenhotep III. Well, he was too busy looking at the new little hussy being offered to him. She gave her son a nod. She then leaned over, touching her husband's hand, whispering to him. He seemed disinterested in what she had to say, and she dismissed herself gracefully. Even some place as close as the next room was vacant and quiet. T took one look at me and chuckled. "Ah, there you are. What trouble you caused last night. Oh, he is in such a foul mood this morning." "You would not have contributed in any way, though, am I right?" I boldly teased, brushing some hair out of my face. I really don't know how to make it any clearer that I'm just not interested in him. "Well, I'm glad to know he does not have some hypnotic power," she sighed. "I was beginning to wonder if anyone could resist him. I'm glad you were able to prove that someone could." She then gasped and clasped her hands, turning on her heels to face her son, who stumbled back a step, surprised by such a sudden movement. "Anyway, you have something you wanted to tell me?" "Actually, it sort of involves the incident last night," he said carefully. "Do you see these wrinkles, children?" she sighed, pointing to her face. A brief pause. "Do you see them, damn it?" "Yes, ma'am," we replied in a frantic panic, grabbing onto one another. "These are from stress and worry. He puts me through too much. I have to compete with almost 1,000 wives. It's not easy. On top of that, I must secure my son's legitimacy as his successor. At any moment, he could very well change his mind and crown any son born of his whores." "I appreciate you, Mother," Amenhotep said with a humble bow. "I understand just how hard you work for my benefit. You are so admirable. A true goddess," I smiled in agreement. "I'm sorry. You wanted to tell me something," she said, realizing she had pulled Amenhotep away from his topic yet again. He stood tall, puffed out his chest, and sucked in a breath, hoping it would bring him confidence. Whether it did or not, it didn't matter as he blurted it out. "I have chosen a wife, Mother. I have a consort to be my great wife." She stared blankly at him, processing those words, and apparently reprocessing them as well. But then, a smile began to grow across her face ever so gradually. "You did? Oh, this is a wonderful thing! Taking a junior queen can definitely help to solidify you. You are brilliant, Amenhotep. Absolutely brilliant. You are the son of my loins. I am pleased that you approve this decision to marry, he replied, taking a moment to stand firm and take hold of her arms, as she had grabbed him and shook him in her excitement. But this choice was not a political one, really. I was sure that perhaps it would prove a positive political tool for me, but it makes the whole idea of marriage seem so vulgar. That is not my reasoning. I wish to marry because I have fallen in love. Even if Father changed his mind tomorrow, I would still wish to marry her. I am in love with the woman I wish to take as my bride. Yes, to be in love with the person you marry as your mate. It is much more meaningful in the heart and soul, she swooned. This is so beautiful. My baby has found his first love. He sucked in another breath and finally made the statement loud and clear to her. Mother, I wish to marry Nefertiti. She beamed, leaning over to pinch my cheeks. Boy, that hurt. This woman could not be underestimated in any way. She was powerful and strong, despite her appearance and age. I knew it! I knew that it would be you, Nefertiti. I knew it would not be a matter of who, just a matter of when he would make the announcement. I knew it would be you from the moment I first saw the two of you together. I knew you would be the one for my son. You are always so good and kind to him, bringing him such confidence and encouraging him to shine his own light. You are made for him. Yes, definitely. I was blushing and twirling a little bashfully as she showered me with such blessings and praise. But I was startled and let out a yelp as she took hold of me and began to swing me around. She then slammed me back against the wall and began to poke and prod at me. Mother! What is she doing? I cried out. She stroked her hand over several areas of my body, making me feel hot with embarrassment. The poking was very uncomfortable. Yes, very good form. She ran her hand up my inner thighs, making me choke on a swallow, and then over my outer thighs and hips. She is very good, Amenhotep. Look at her well. Look at all these marks of a perfect bride. Study them well, and study them better after your marriage. Know this body, Amenhotep, inside and out with great intimacy and detail. No finer specimen shall ever be born to the kingdom of Egypt as this. No queen shall rival her. Even I cannot outdo and outshine her. Her perfection is godly. I don't think I understand, he stammered. Is it a custom to be molested by my to-be mother-in-law? I whimpered. She pulled him close, grabbing his hand and placing it between my thighs, making me gasp again and making him blush furiously. Do you feel it, son? What exactly am I feeling for? He asked in a high-pitched voice. I know what goes there. Do I really need to feel it now? No, not that, she scolded. These thighs, the very area of her intimate places. Feel how soft, feel how perfect. He gulped. You two are perfectly made for one another. I expect your sex to be filled with endless and divine passions. We shall hear your cries of pleasure all over Egypt. Mother! What in the world? She will be comfortable for you, my boy. She smiled. When you make love, you will not be uncomfortable. And she will be comfortable when you make love to her. No bony hips and scraggly figures. Both of you are very soft and healthy. You are the very images of love and perfection. Can we please stop rubbing my thighs where people can see, please? I pleaded. I would really like to not be in this position anymore. I agree, Amenhotep said loudly and quickly, freeing himself from his mother's grip and stepping back, looking horribly mortified. He had some nerve. He was mortified? I was the one getting molested and felt up. Her shape is perfect for other reasons, T stated. Look at these hips. They are wide and spacious. She was born to be a mother, Amenhotep. She shall bear you many children with ease. I can promise you that she is fertile. The signs are too perfect. She released me finally, and she smiled as I tried to straighten my dress. You are a very good girl, a strong girl. You are terrific breeding. Your children will be good children, the most beautiful, I bet. She turned and grabbed her son, yanking him forward and crushing him in a hug. My child, You have made your mama very happy. I approve of your choice, and I am very happy for you. I am even happier that you are in love with her as well. And you?" She peered at me. I am very much in love with him too," I assured. "That is good," she said with a nod. "I want a grand celebration. It will be so. It will be so!" She clapped her hands eagerly, turning to leave us to the corridor, eventually growing so full of cheerful energy that she began to skip like a child. Every servant she could find became a victim of her joy, being taken up by her, spun around, and danced with along the corridors, and thrown aside with every spin. I let a long sigh escape from my chest, and stumbled to Amenhotep, holding on to him, and letting him take me in his arms. She seems to have taken that rather well. We gasped, unaware anyone had gotten so close. We turned to see the notorious Tepi standing behind us, watching the path T had taken in her exit. He concluded with, "She doesn't seem to realize her own strength." "Where did you come from?" I whined. "Amenhotep, he did that come out of nowhere thing again." The prince merely chuckled at my antics and turned his eyes to Tepi. "The situation is still resting in our favor, and in the favor of the gods. This is a good thing. Who would have thought that I could have grown this much in so little time? I actually feel better about where I believe my life is going, and I feel I just may finally have the confidence to take some control of it." "Very good, my prince," Tepi replied with a deep kneel. "This pleases me to hear you speak now like a crown prince and a young king." The sky was turning orange. Purple clouds were streaked across the horizon. It was much cooler than it had been in the afternoon, but it was still warm enough for Amenhotep's comfort. My husband-to-be and I enjoyed our perch on the roof. It was still our special place. It was our special, intimate place. "Today was a good day," I sighed. "Yes," Amenhotep agreed in a very peaceful voice. I leaned forward, humming as I let thoughts run through my mind. "Amenhotep, I've been thinking." "Me too," he beamed with a hint of a giggle. "It'll be a grand celebration. Knowing my mother, it will be a monumental occasion." "Huh," I replied. "That wasn't what I was thinking about." "Then what?" I rubbed the back of my neck. "I want to tell you something, but I'm afraid you may find it to be a little crazy." "Try me," he chuckled. "I am quite open-minded. You know that already." "Well, when I was first brought here, it was after some supernatural events. I lived a life that was quite foreign to this one. Then, one morning, I met this thing. It was like God or something. It spoke to me, unlike anyone has ever spoken. It was strange to look upon. And after it spoke, it brought me to this place." He peered over at me, seemingly shocked. "What did the God look like?" he asked, genuinely interested, and perhaps even a little desperate. "It was really weird. It was as if the sun itself was talking to me. It wasn't male or female. It was as if it was both, speaking like a choir of male and female voices. It had all these arms coming out, going all around it. It was bright and warm. It felt so powerful, and yet it also felt so gentle." "Aten," he said quietly, looking away and seeming to trance into his own little world. "I've heard you mention Aten before," I pointed out. "Ah, this is so wonderful," he said, growing a relieved smile. I could clearly see that he was becoming excited with this news. You heard it speak?" "Well, yes, but I knew it! I knew you were special, Nefertiti. And rest assured, you most certainly are. Aten was true to its word. Aten hand-picked you especially for me." "So you know what it is that I'm talking about? You believe me?" "Yes, I have heard Aten's voice too. Could Amenhotep IV be him? The sun creature this Aten had told me about? Was he staring me in the face all of this time?" Amenhotep, what is it? This Aten that you speak of? Aten is a god, Nefertiti, he replied. But between you and me, I think it's the only god. But that is blasphemous talk. You feel how you feel, Amenhotep, I said. Traditional gods, Amun especially, have ignored me. I believe that any and all of my blessings are from Aten. It is unlike the other gods, and I believe more powerful. It is such a basic god that it must be older than even Amun. It must even predate our own civilization. Aten is the sun itself. It's so simple. It's so plain. It's so easy to understand. Without Aten, there would be nothing. It truly controls all that makes life in this world possible. I believe you, I replied simply. Really, what was there to say to such a thing? Do you really? I have never seen gods. Yet this Aten of yours, it connected with me. That was a miracle that I saw. It saved my life. It was looking out for me. That's more than I can say for any other great being out there. I have seen it with my own eyes. So, I believe it. This is so then, he nodded. He was obviously pleased with my acceptance. And he was more so when I realized that I also had experiences. One day, I will repay Aten for all it has done for me. For us. You just wait and see. I swear it. The following day, Amenhotep and I entered the court, seeing it virtually deserted. A few musicians played quietly in one corner, and other servants were cleaning and tending to the room as necessary. The thrones were empty, but before them stood Queen T, staring at them, as if to contemplate them to some extent. Her eyes were so sad, and I almost wondered if perhaps she had been crying. "Mother," Amenhotep called. "What's wrong? Where is everybody?" "Ah, my son, you're here." "You look sad," he said gently. "Please, tell me what's troubling you. Has something happened to Father for him to be absent?" "He's suffering from his mouth pain again," T said sadly. "He is in such pain and discomfort. A man so powerful crushed by something so small." "I'm sorry, Mother. Cannot the dentist do anything?" "So far it seems fruitless." She sighed and wrapped her arms about his arm and pulled him gently forward in a comforting embrace. "Do your mama a favor and sit in your father's throne." "Why?" he asked. "He may not like that." She stroked his face thoughtfully. "Do as your mama tells you." He glanced back at me, a small look of worry and confusion in his eyes. He then slipped from his mother's arms and stood over his father's throne, contemplating the intricate golden seat. "Are you sure, Mother?" "A king must sit on this throne, son. Your father cannot sit in it forever. You will have to take his place. This will be your place. Get used to it and grow comfortable. This is the seat of a human god. Don't put Father in his grave too soon." I don't know why, but I found that statement so unlike and yet so like him. He and his father were never close, yet he had a sensitive compassion for him. Or was he afraid? Sitting in that throne would change his life forever. It would make his regency and legitimacy for real. There would be no turning back. He took a deep breath, closing his eyes before he turned around and sat down, gripping the arms tensely. I chuckled. "Amenhotep, relax. You look like you're electrocuted or constipated." "Nefertiti," he whined, "don't say such bizarre things, especially not now. It's making me more uncomfortable." "She's right, though," T chuckled. "You need to relax. You must look and feel the part. Sit tall and sit confidently. Neferkeperure, Wayanra." "How come everyone can pronounce that but me?" I whined. Amenhotep took a few deep breaths and sat up straight, trying to look majestic as possible. "Good," T said. Then turning to me and taking my arm, Now you, sit in my throne. No god is complete without his goddess. Beside every king must sit his queen. I knew better than to disobey her. Unsure, I took my seat to Amenhotep's right, looking at him. My immediate presence seemed to put him at ease, and he smiled. He reached over, taking my hand affectionately. You two are so adorable, T swooned. I can't wait until your marriage is official. I'll make sure the preparations are made to be swift. I don't mind swift, Amenhotep said, but let's not risk any mistakes that are avoidable with quality patience. Very good, she smiled. You are talking the words of a man. That is the true seed of a king. His hands tightened around mine. I want it well known that I, the misfit prince, will be married to the most beautiful woman in the world, my queen, Nefertiti. I blushed as T began to clap happily, unable to contain her excitement. Perhaps it could be argued that she was the most excited among us at that moment. But then, who knew? Who? There was no official answer, was there? And I don't think any of us cared to find out. This was happiness. This was our content and our euphoric moment. And this was how we spent a good portion of that day.